Well, we're back again. I have to start this episode. Wait, first I'll say people have to always remember to subscribe, like, share. And the funny thing about that is, like, I was told by someone I have to say that. And I always thought, I just assumed that people just did that. But anyway, but this one's a special episode only because we went to great lengths to get this episode up and running. Like, if people only understood what the hell was going on with this episode, it is incredible. And I have to also say it's one of those moments where when they say everything happens for a reason, I this week this has happened. It's been one of the most stressful 48 hours for me, right? And I guess this next guest originally was meant to come on I would say a month ago or just over a month ago. It never eventuated. Obviously, COVID. We'll always blame COVID for that. And I wanted to make sure we timed it right for a fight card. And, he hit me up 2 days ago, and I had this dilemma that I already had the next 2 weeks booked in. And I was like, damn it, we've missed the boat on this. But since then, I've had podcasts cancel on me. I've had time zone issues with the States. Things have fallen to pieces. And by all means, we've been able to make this podcast happen. Then we had some technical issues. And I'll tell you the truth, if it wasn't for COVID, it probably would have been easier for me to jump on a flight and just head down to Dunedin. Anyway, my guest for this week is none other than Howie Booth. Now, he runs Hammerhead MMA down in Dunedin, New Zealand. He's also part of NZMMAF, which is part of IMAF. He's also taken part in most fight cards, whether it's through commentary. So you might have heard him on Fight Pass. He's reffed. He's judged. I don't know what he hasn't done. What I do know is that he's got a man cave that most guys will like absolutely drop dead once they see it. It's even going borderline museum. But as I said just before, I'm talking about none other than Howie Booth. How have you been, and how has 2020 been treating you?
Dennis, it's great to finally get to talk to you. I've really wanted to be involved in this podcast for quite a while. You've had some very good guests on here, and just the other weekend when you had, a couple of weeks ago when you had Sharpie on there, I really wanted to be involved. But 2020 has been a very interesting year, to say the least, mate. Not only for that word that you were talking about earlier, but personally, in New Zealand, the way MMA is going, it's just been fantastic. So we started off working the UFC show in Auckland, which was just a fantastic card, just a great show. We did 1 or 2 shows, and then, of course, everything just shut down. We managed to do, down here in Dunedin, we managed to do a show not long after, because we went to different levels. After we did a complete lockdown for 6 weeks for the whole of the country, and everyone was thinking it was this kind of thing. It was like, just think of this, there was no work, no schools, no shops open, nothing. The only thing you could do was get petrol and go to a hospital, basically, if you had to. And luckily that there wasn't many that had to. So we did that. We did our show not long after that, and then we went back into level 2 there just recently, and we did have another show which technically should have been about a month ago, but now we're building up to the show, which is next weekend, which is the one that we're very excited about. But I was involved in a show last weekend, actually, so this is why we love level 1 down in the deep south, mate.
So,
as in everything was at a different level in Auckland, obviously, and there was a show in Auckland last weekend, and it was a very successful show, but and they've been planning for a long time, the Shuriken show, but it was under the restrictions, unfortunately, from level 2. But yes, so
let me
we're back to level 1, the whole country.
Let me ask you on that though. Like, are you able to send, say, fighters up to Auckland? Like, because for instance, here we've had the case that they've had fights up in Queensland, but no one can cross the Queensland border. So it's literally people that are in Queensland that can fight. The rest of us are just kind of watching what's happening in Queensland, right? So is it the same case that, or have you been able to send fighters between islands?
We've been able to do that. Just recently when we went back and the levels jumped up again, Auckland went up to a higher level because they did have cases that were in the community. And so everything was just sort of really put on hold. They basically went to a lockdown situation for a couple of weeks where the rest of the country was at level 2. They were at level 3. Then we went to level 1. Auckland's just gone back to level 1 now. So everything's sort of been put on hold. Very much put on hold, but now it's all going to take off again, especially in the combat sport side of things. So it's a wee bit different to the situation you have with crossing state lines in your country. So we're basically back to normal now, and we're really looking forward to this big show. And the thing that was happening here was after the lockdown, and we got the all clear. There was concerts, rugby was on, everything was happening, and there was big crowds. It wasn't an issue at all. So hopefully we're back to that status now because there's no more community transmission. You see, so that's the best part.
That's the crazy thing here, though, is that we've now had rugby, or league, I should say, and it's funny. Yes. I actually saw a guy post about it the other day where he's like, how is it that we can have 18,000 people at a rugby match, yet we can't have an event? Like, for instance, for us, even like we were meant to have a finale night a couple of weeks ago, or actually it was meant to be this weekend, I think. Yet they won't allow that, whether it's 400 people, 500 people, they won't actually allow it, right? Even to the point that Mick was happy to kind of make it as the international thing right now, which would be to do it as a streaming-based service where we just need a venue, the fighters would fight, but the commission wouldn't sign off on it, yet we can have 18,000 people go to a football game and watch football, and it's just kind of crazy the way that they've, they pick and choose, I guess, what they want to support and what they want to allow. I just don't see it. Like, at the end of the day, social distancing is social distancing no matter if you go to a concert, no matter if you go to a sporting event, but for some reason... it's a bit bonkers over here anyway.
Oh, it's the same thing, especially with the rugby over here. Some of the games were played in closed stadiums, just at the time. Not that there was a threat, we'll say, down here as such that we knew of socially, but everyone adhered to the rules. So that was the interesting thing. But now we're back to level 1. This is what we wanted. That's why we've postponed the show, and that's coming up. So this is really what we wanted, so that was the important thing. And apart from that was the safety of everyone, of course, and Auckland's gone back to level 1, so we're just fingers crossed that we stay there like that at the moment, so that's the most important thing.
And when you say level 1, what does level 1 look like for you guys? Like, are you allowed to have crowds? Like,
yes.
Is it full capacity, or are you like, three quarters, or what?
No, everything's basically normal at level 1. Level 2, there needs to be social distancing, and that's what Auckland was in last weekend with the show up there, and it would have made it difficult because you wouldn't have that environment that we're used to when we go to a fight show. As in, you need that capacity and that closeness to get that feeling for the shows, which is what's missing internationally at the moment. But aren't we pleased we were able to watch such great fights?
Well, I don't know. Like I always say I sit into, like, to be a live audience member, yes, we're missing the crowd. To watch it on the telecast, I actually enjoy it with no crowds. I have to admit, like, I actually like hearing the coaches, hearing the fighters, hearing the ref. I just kind of feel like it's a 360 environment for a telecast. Obviously, yes, nothing beats going to a live show, but at the moment, especially because we only get a couple of UFC cards down this way anyway, I'm actually liking it. Like, the Apex Center don't have any crowds. I love it.
Yeah. Look, it's really interesting, Dennis. Look, I agree. It's the interesting part for me is when I do my study of the shows, we'll say the pay-per-views. I usually don't know the results until later in the day when I get to see a copy. And I usually watch it without any audio. So I'm not hearing the bias and all that sort of thing. So I'm watching the fight for what it is, even though you're getting the perfect angle all the time. I try and explain this to people about the judging criteria, as in live is different to what you see on TV. And with regards to, we'll say, commentator bias, replays and things like that, and you're taking their opinion on board sometimes of who they think is winning the fight. And then it's quite interesting. So I usually watch it without any audio going, so I can just watch the fights, just to see how they play out, but just as a personal thing. So I don't mind that without anyone in the house with me either, and a very quiet time. So once again, I agree with you. I enjoy the how they're doing it at the Apex Centre, or if they're on Fight Island. It's just like a close personal fight in a gym that you know really well, basically, and with just a select audience. I think it's fantastic.
Now listen,
I really enjoy it.
Listen, you've been to Fight Island, right? But but you went to Fight Island before it was Fight Island. Is that correct?
Yes. I went there last year.
when you went, they didn't have like the Martians in the spacesuits and stuff like that.
No,
so
you went. No.
So what was the experience like? Did you stay at the same, like the W hotel that they stay at and stuff? Like, was it exactly the same in that regards? And what was that experience like?
Well, I'll tell you what it was. My experience for that, Dennis, went like this. I had a text message on my phone at a very late time, and and the text message went, "Did you get the email? And are you available?" And I didn't recognise the number at all, and I looked at it and I thought, I wonder what. I think I might know what this is. So yes, I'm available, and yes, I've got the email. And of course, I had to go back and look through my emails, and I had missed it. And so I then replied again, yes, I'm available. And they went, oh great, such and such, someone will be in touch and they'll organise some travel for you. And then I read it very closely, and where I was heading to, because the area that I can be involved in Oceania is quite big, we'll say. So it can be, there's a few places that I've been to now, but this is way out of the normal region. So basically my day was flying out of Dunedin. So work like normal, fly to Auckland in the afternoon and fly to Dubai for 17 hours out of Auckland. And that was the Thursday, land there on the Friday, and do the show. And basically, I was back in Dunedin on Monday afternoon.
Wow!
So that was my trip to Fight Island, and but stayed in the Crown Plaza where all the fighters are, as such. Sorry, where all officials are. They're staying in Crown Plaza there. So yes, I was there last year. So I went there for Khabib's fight against Dustin Poyo.
So you were there live for that fight?
Yes, I was.
You weren't assigned to that fight though, right? So you actually got to view it as a.
No, I wasn't.
So you got the full spectator treatment on that one.
On that last fight, I did, yes, but I did work. I did do half that card, yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you don't know what fight you're doing until an hour before the show. When everyone gets to their assignments, that's the referees and the judges, so no one has any idea what fight they're going to be working. So there can be no collusion or anything like that. Basically, you get handed that, and then you're out on the floor, and then the show pretty much starts. So you're kept in. You don't post anything like that or show anything what you're going to do, because basically then you're doing it, basically, yeah.
And so let me ask you as well, because you've pretty much, experienced MMA from most angles. Which is your favourite? So you've got the judge, you've got the ref, right? You've got the promoter, you've got the commentator, you've got the fan, I guess, even. Like, to you, which is the best experience to experience MMA in?
Well, as you know, Dennis, with regards to shows, leading up to it is an absolute nightmare. And so here in Dunedin, we would have done close to 30 shows since 2006. We've been promoting here. It's just an absolute nightmare of change of fighters and every other thing that needs to be done. But as soon as it's over, everyone asks you when the next show is, and you're just like, give me 6 hours to digest this, and then the next thing you're wondering when we're going to do the next show, because there's nothing that for me, it's all about the fights. Even though there's an incredible amount of work that goes into doing this, but for me personally, if I go to another show, which we travel to, and I usually now, obviously later on, I'm traveling as an official, we'll say, but I'll go to a show and I'll just ask, or beforehand I'll be asked, what do you need done? What do you need a hand with? And I'm keen to, I'll be your timekeeper if you want to judge, if you want to referee. It really doesn't bother me. As long as I'm involved in the show, I'll be a happy camper. I really will. But I really enjoy the refereeing for the closeness of the fights. But the judging aspect is totally different again. Being objective and unbiased and looking at the fight for what it is. But later on, or if I get the opportunity as a fan, like I said to you earlier, I know far too much about the sport, and you know about this and you know about that, and this should happen, but I really, really want to see that thing that's just going to make you go, I don't know if I can swear, but just go, wow. I want to see those things that just make you go, God, this is why we love the sport. You know, you just want to see that X factor involved in it. It's the immediacy of the sport is the best part of it, you know, and the way, especially with the crowds that we've had down here, they're so knowledgeable, and if the fight's over in 30 seconds and they see something spectacular, no one complains. Or if it's just one of those dog fights, people don't mind that at all. So that's the great part about the sport. But I've listened to the crowds here for years now, and with doing the commentary or doing post-fight commentary or anything like that, because we've had some fights go on to some shows, go on to Sky TV here, which will be the same as Foxtel over there or something like that. So I've been involved in the post-fight commentary, and then it goes to screen. But listening to the crowd live and then going back and then watching it and then doing a commentary over the top of it, and just watching from those angles, that's different from live to what is being shown on the screen from the camera angles. When you have good cameramen, you know, they pick up everything. It's just, and the editing, which you understand, is just makes the sport, you know. It's just such a spectacular sport to watch. So there's nothing that I really don't mind being involved in. I really don't.
So let me ask you this: with all the stresses of running a show, how much hair you got left?
I've gone for the no frills like a long time ago. That came from training years ago with you know, it's just more comfortable when you're training, which I still do. So the other part is that the big part of this brand that you see here on my chest, the other word that leads the way in this is team. So Team Hammerhead is what we're all about, and there's a massive team that make this show work. You know, Matt Tower does a phenomenal job running the cutter at the gym, but also leading the promotion, and it's something that we've all been involved in with him for a long time. Like, his matchmaking is just fantastic, you know. So yeah, no, it's a big part to. We're lucky sometimes that we've got an army involved with Hammerhead for the amount of things that we have to get done to make the shows run smoothly. For the amount of things that you see out the front, the stuff that happens behind the scenes that these people don't get enough credit for is absolutely incredible.
Well, not even people. Like, I always say that the same with the promotions, right? Because one of the things that you always see up in the highlights, and look, once again, I want to put a disclaimer out there. I think fighters deserve every cent they make, and a lot of them are underpaid. I will say that. But I always find it funny when you see the articles and they're like, you know, and we'll pick up the UFC here because they're always the ones in the articles, and they're like, you know, they took 18 million gate, they did this, they did that, and they only paid the fighters 12% of that gate, for instance. And I'm like, people need to realize that there's a lot of wheels in motion too. It's not just it's not just gate fighters. You got security, you got venue, you got as you say, there's so many wheels that people just don't even realize. Like running back.
Look, it's a gigantic machine that, and it's such a privilege to be involved in. It's I've looked at the flyout list sometimes, Dennis, on some of the shows that I've been to. And it's like there's hundreds of names, and these people are flying all around the world, different airlines, and their shuttle times are down there and all this sort of thing. Like the amount of work that would go in behind the scenes to get everybody there. And the great part about being involved in the show is that you get together with people that are so passionate about the sport from all different parts of the world, and you get together with people that you really like for about 24 hours. And
John Sharp.
and everyone does their job. Everyone does their job professionally, and then we all go to different corners of the world again. So it's but the logistics of getting something like that organised would just be absolutely mind blowing. The things that need to be in motion weeks and weeks and weeks in advance, and to be able to change tact at any moment. Look, there was a thing that happened the other year, and I did say this to. They brought out a series for the 25 years for the UFC of the highlights of 25 years. There was you ever seen all those? There's some great posts. I said to someone that's involved with them, they had to move a show from I think Vegas to California, and they did it in 6 days. The logistics of moving that, apart from finding a venue, getting fights organised for fighters that were already in Vegas, and then getting accommodation and everybody to move just like that in under 6 days was just absolutely incredible. To be able to do that, to say this is what we're doing now, we can't have the show here, but the show's still going on the same date, but we're moving to a different state in a different city. To be able to do that and everyone go, yes, we're going to do that, and they did, and it was a hell of a show. So to be able to
but it also
do that,
it also made you realize how much power one man has, because let's not forget they moved that show for one fighter, right? Like,
you know that, don't you?
Yeah, so
incredible. But to be able to do that, they decided on if the show was on a Saturday, they decided like either on the Sunday night or the Monday, right, we're moving. And so they had to, to book a venue and just change flights and just exactly that. The boss goes, we're going to do this. And everyone goes, yes, we are.
I mean,
and to be able to pull it off, incredible.
Even what they're doing right now, and this is where you got to appreciate it now as well. Where you kind of like, look, a lot of sporting leagues weren't getting back because they're like, well, without the gates, we're going to go bust, right? So the fact that and it's not just the UFC, Bellator are getting back to it now as well, and obviously local shows and stuff. But the fact that you're able to now drive those machines. In a time like this, where a lot of, professional leagues, whether it was the NBA, like I'm talking about some major sports, you've got to sit back and appreciate that too and go, look, and the other thing, I guess, the other one, once again, I always rely to the UFC only because all the articles always point the finger at them. But the other one is always about, the UFC just got sold for $4 billion, right? And I always say, yes, that's great for the people that sold it. The people that have bought that, unless they were paying in cash, they've got some heavy loans with interest on that $4 billion. So you can't just say like, oh, it got sold for $4 billion, so therefore they've made mega money. Yeah, the people that have sold it maybe have made mega money, but the people that currently own it, they're now in debt. And I think people forget that they always I just always find it funny because you get people asking for free tickets and you get this and that, and then at the end of the day, and people like let's not get it twisted, illegal streams, right? People don't want to pay the pay-per-view. They'll stream it, but then they're the first people that get on their keyboards and start yelling like foul play that these promotions aren't paying high enough. And once again, I will say that I do feel that fighters should get paid more, but in order for that to happen, right? You have to buy tickets. You have to buy the pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
You have to and that's.
Oh, look, I think one of the biggest things that's happened, Dennis, is that it's on ESPN. To put that with the Big Four, and then you've got MMA or you've got the UFC there. It's absolutely incredible. That's a hell of a coup, and how the sport would have taken off since there's no other live sport on. It would just be incredible. The amount of people that are watching. And now appreciating the sport more because there's nothing else to watch. But, and saying that, like you say, as much as we enjoy the shows that are at the Apex Centre, and this is the second time they've gone back to Years Island to Fight Island, there's been some amazing fights, just absolutely incredible fights that you just you think if they were in a stadium full of people, they would it would be absolutely incredible. But the fact that they're going on, and it's the only real big thing on, and they're on every week, like nothing stopped them from doing what they're doing. The logistics to put everything involved is just unbelievable. It's mind-blowing.
And even
it's incredible.
And even when you think about it, like their PI institutes that they've got in Vegas and also in Shanghai now, like I remember like going into that place, and you know, it's one of those things, like once again, you see it in major leagues. And I think that this is the great thing too, is like, you know, you see basketball teams, they have their rehab centers, they have all this. And I think for the first time, you know, they were able to achieve that with the PI centers, you know, and I mean that because you go in there, upstairs, they've got the cage, they got the rolling mats, they got everything downstairs there, strength and conditioning. Then they've got the pool, the spas, the cryo. You know, like it's literally set up. They've got a cafeteria, and if you're a fighter, you eat for free. If you're part of the camp, obviously it's at a reduced. It's a ridiculous rate anyway. Like it practically is free. But I'm saying, you know, they've got everything at their disposal, and at the end of the day, it just creates a better product because these athletes are really peaking, right? Like they're really, as I said, they're in peak performance because they've got all the pros looking at them. If they're injured, they get them back on. I don't know. And once again, all of that, as I said, if you're a fighter, that facility is for free for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where's that money coming from? And that's what I'm saying. Like people just don't understand that there's a lot more than just gates and fighter pay.
Oh,
right.
Well, look, absolutely. You know, so for them to be able to keep doing this, you know, this is huge amount of money invested. So, you know, we're enjoying the spectacle that we of the sport that we love, but you know, the things that are involved behind the scenes is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So it's been well thought out and well planned, and it's working. You know, it's fantastic. Huge investment in the sport, massive.
Now let me take people back to your beginnings, right? So, and that's because obviously you've seen from where it's pretty much come from. You said you went to the first show in Dunedin, and I think was that the first show in Dunedin or first show in New Zealand back in '97?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was.
No, what was it? The first show in Dunedin, or was it the first show in New Zealand? Like, was that the first ever show, or?
No. I've had many debates about this, Dennis, and the interesting thing is there was limited rules shows in New Zealand, and I've had a lot of debate with people about that, but we've all agreed on the fact that the first fight in a cage in New Zealand was in Dunedin in 1997. And I was fortunate enough to go to that. I actually managed to get my hands on some, I'd heard about the UFC, and I managed to get my hands on some footage, and I watched it a lot. And I managed to see, it was the most amazing thing that I'd seen. And then I got to see it live in 97 in Dunedin. And it was just like, wow, like things have never been the same for me. It really hasn't. I've been involved. I got involved as soon as I could. As soon as I saw it, it made complete sense to me. It was just, it had every part of a real fight with rules and honour as far as I was concerned. And I got involved as soon as I could. It was great. It was great. It was mind-altering. It really was. And it hasn't stopped all these years later.
And it's kind of annoying because, as I was saying to you before the podcast, is that's the year that my sister was born in Dunedin. Yeah. And it's also the year I left in Dunedin, Dunedin. Yeah. So maybe I should have stuck around for a little while longer. Do you remember what promotion that was?
Yeah, it was Reality Fight 1. It was Peter Williamson was the promoter, and he was also the main fighter. And they had 2 weight divisions, 2 classes. And to get to the final in both, they had to fight twice in the night. And it was back with no gloves and headbutts. It was just Yeah, it was quite incredible, and that was in a cage. They obviously did more in Dunedin, but they were never in a cage again. So they were in a ring and that, but same rules. So this is how much the sport has evolved. So it's interesting that one of the people that was involved in that fight, who were in the final, will be at the show next weekend. And I've spent a bit of time with him, Mr. Chris Easley. So, and I've talked to him quite a bit about that, and the fact that he was involved in something like that. And he didn't get the result he wanted in that fight, but they did rematch, and he did get the result that he wanted in the second fight. So that was, that was very much the start of, we'll say, there was limited rules fights, but that was, we'll say, MMA in New Zealand. I would say in '97, but there was obviously limited rules fights before that, but not in a cage, or not on that scale, let's say. And then it took off.
And so, how did you, I guess, get involved? So obviously you went to that show, but now obviously, as I say, you're heavily involved, right? Like from as I say, being part of Hammerhead to reffing to flying to Fight Island. You've obviously come to Australia.
Yes.
I guess you do most shows in NZ.
No. There's other promotions in New Zealand that I had nothing to do with, apart from perhaps cornering and stuff. But down in the South Island, yeah, sure, do lots of different shows here. So and different either refereeing or judging, or like I say, timekeeping, whatever. I'll help out. Not a problem, mate. Not a problem. But I have done, well, I did do an Eternal show, the one that was in Auckland before the UFC. I did work that one, so that was interesting.
Let me ask you, do you still do stuff, was it Isaac?
Yeah, it was funny, actually. Like, that thing popped up on Facebook today, that one that I sent. It was 4 years ago that we did Brace in Christchurch. We did the live feed, and Isaac actually worked. I sent that to him today, and he goes, God, it seems like a lifetime ago, but we did. He was actually emceeing the show in Auckland last weekend, so he's still very much involved in the sport. Does a lot of MC work, and he's very much involved in the fight scene up north. So, and like I say, I was reffing in Alexandra in a show that we did up there, that we were involved in up there. It was a Hammerhead bucket list up there from Central, and the cage was on the ground. It was great, and it was in a pub, and the punters loved it. And I was refereeing, and there was a time where the fighters walked through the crowd, and some of the crowd where they were seated, they could probably touch the cage, and there was that much noise. Even though the timekeeper, I could see him, he was only two meters away from me, that I couldn't hear the bell. There was that much noise. It was just real grassroots stuff. It was just fantastic. It was really good.
So to get a sense of it though, like how big is MMA in New Zealand now? Like obviously it's the fastest growing sport globally. Obviously as I said, like here, it's weird. Like here, when the UFC comes to town, obviously it sells out. But sometimes some of these local ones, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, Eternal's done a good job. The one that I went down to in Melbourne, that was pretty much, but it was also the weekend of the UFC, so I don't know if that helped, like having the 2 nights together or whatever. But like, you know, as I said, like I've read articles that Izzy has now become, I guess, a bigger icon than the All Blacks, which I find hard to believe.
Yes.
You know, and I heard someone else say to me that, yes, he is bigger internationally than the All Blacks, but in New Zealand, the All Blacks are still number one supreme. How big is it now?
Well, here's the interesting thing, Dennis. I read this just the other day. Like, we're going to have the first Bladdersloe test this weekend in Wellington, and it's been 400 days since the All Blacks have played in New Zealand. Well, 400 days since they scored the last try in New Zealand. So, in that time, you know, a lot's happened. You know, it was a year ago, just the other day, that Israel beat Robert Whittaker in Melbourne. on that massive show, and he's defended the title twice since then.
During COVID.
Yeah, that's absolutely. You know, so like, there's no. If you want to watch live sport, that's the sport to watch, and it's on every weekend. And over here in New Zealand, it's free. It's on Sky every weekend, and once a month you have to pay for it on your pay-per-view. So, and they have a massive card. So, the profile that, like I say, that Auckland show that I went to in earlier this year was just an absolute fantastic show. Brad Riddell on it, and Dan Hooker fought Paul Felder. It was just a fantastic show. Like, apart from the fact that it was in New Zealand, it was a bloody good card, and it delivered. So, like, the profile of the sport here is great. All we need to do is have more shows. It's as simple as that, and we just know how hard it is to. Well, you have an idea of how hard it is to promote, mate. It takes a lot of conviction. It takes a lot of money, and it costs a lot of money. You don't make money on it, but what else would you do with your time?
But I mean, that's the other reason why I keep, like, every time I talk to someone that's got anything to do with Bellator, I keep, like, saying, get into Scott's ear. Like, because I do, as I said, like, when UFC come, we have no problem selling those out. And I just think, when you have that kind of backing, and I just feel like if Bellator were to come to Australia as well, I think they wouldn't have a problem selling out. I think their show's big enough to do that. And I just feel like once those kind of shows come in more often, because that's the thing, like, I think as well, and I'm not trying to squash the local shows, but I feel that when you have this one major show come once a year, it's kind of like, but where if it becomes a more regular thing, then I think it'll also build the local show as well.
Look, I think, and I'm only guessing here. It's just that the profile of Australasian MMA is so high at the moment. Look, I know Jamie's going to fight over on the island, and Jimmy's heading over there too, Jimmy Crute, and just the way that the four fighters from CKB did on Fight Island not long ago.
You had Josh on the weekend.
Look, it's the possibility that they come to New Zealand more than every 3 years. Could really be a big factor, and there's obviously, you do usually 2, possibly 3 shows in Australia a year, sort of thing. So you're looking at maybe 4 in the area or something like that. Which is, but you think that show in Melbourne a year ago, that was the biggest crowd that they ever had, and so that they know how big the support is down this area, and they've got fighters to fill the cards. They really have. There's some very, very good fighters down here. And they'll only be getting better with the profile that we'll say CKB is doing, and with shows that they've just done in Auckland at Shuriken, and the show that we're about to do here in Dunedin, the XFC show. So it's just great for the sport. It really is. And these fighters need this platform to be seen, to be able to get looked at for higher honours, and especially the way the magnifying glass will be put on this area now. With what CKB are doing, the profile of the sport. They'll be looking for other fighters. They really will be. It's a great opportunity.
But I also, as I say, like, I think per capita, we're unbelievable at the moment. Like, we got Arlene fighting for the title. She flew out yesterday. She's going to fight Chris Cyborg. We got Megan Anderson fighting for a title. We have Izzy. We had Robert. We have Alex Volkanovski. Like, we have, when you look at, and especially when you look at our population size, like, I think we're one of the better ones right now, right? Like, we're literally in good hands. But let's go to XFC 45. And before we get into the actual specifics, there's a fight on there, obviously main event, Brogan Anderson, which I'm sure you know a lot about. Are they pushing to get him into the UFC? What's going on with him?
Look, I think I couldn't honestly answer you that, Dennis, but I'd say that anyone that any professional fighter in New Zealand now with a record of look, the other thing that's interesting, and I'll give a bit of a shout here. Someone else is doing a podcast. Is Dan Hooker's just started doing a podcast, and he's going to lots of fight shows every weekend. His fighters out of his gym now, fighting in lots of different formats, and he's getting around and he's naming fighters that he thinks should be very close to or should be getting looked at, and quite a few of them. Exactly what you're saying, are going to be fighting in Dunedin next weekend. So, and he's bringing down fighters as well. So, this is definitely the vehicle that these people need, and to be seen and to perform well with this kind of backing from XFC. You know, it's a very good brand. So, and so many fighters have gone on from there. So, as a stepping stone, you know, what could be better for them?
That's
profile-wise.
That's true. So let's get on to XFC. Next weekend, 3 title fights. Mm-hmm. But what is it? Is it just the 3 title fights and then the bucket list, or what's the format of that whole card?
Okay, so what we're doing, Dennis, is as you know, we're doing what we call a bucket list. This is our 6th year of doing this, and it's a very similar to a style that you know quite a bit about. So it's, once again, we invite people to come along to tick this off their bucket list that they're going to have a fight. So this is the 6th year that we've done this, and I would say that this is the first year that we haven't had people returning. So we've had some fighters come and do the bucket list 2 and 3 times. So this year it's just been absolutely fantastic watching. They had a time frame which was obviously a month ago, and now they've got another extra 3 to 4 weeks training because of the COVID word, and because we're at a different level. So now that we're going to do the show now on October 17th, so we've got 11 fights. Yeah, 11 fights on the bucket list show. So there's 22 fighters. So they're going to have their first fight, and that's on the same night as the XFC show, which is going to run in conjunction with it. And then we have a full XFC show as well. So we're going to have the best part of 20 fights next Saturday night. So you're going to see, the people are going to see from amateur, first-time fighters, some people with no martial arts background, some people with martial arts background have their time of training and then get to perform, and then you're going to see right up to the cream of the crop in New Zealand at the moment, going to be fighting for XFC titles and defending their titles, which is very exciting for us down here. Very exciting. It's a very, very good card. So, yeah, we've got 20 fights coming up next weekend.
Well, the night that I met you, which was on that brace card in Christchurch, we actually had both the main event guys fighting on that card.
Yes, you did.
Right? We actually
did, yes.
Which is kind of funny because when I saw that post, I'm like, I know both of those guys.
I've seen these guys. Yeah, well, that was the great part for me was calling that show, but and watching all those fighters. And the great part for me, Dennis, was apart from calling the fights, is I get to interview them as well in the cage, and I'm going to be doing that also. So. A lot of them I know either through being an official or being part of the game, and I've cornered against some of them or back in the day or all kinds of stuff. So you can have a bit of a rapport with them, so you can have a bit of a chat before the show if you see them. And basically I said to them, if I come and talk to you after your fight, that means you've won. So you better have some good chat for me. So once again, we're going to be going through that. So yes, we've got some like the 3 title fights that are up on this card of XFC 45 are very, very good, very good.
And what are you expecting out of these bucket list people?
Well, look, I tell you what, we did with the other club that we have, the Hammerhead Central Club. They did the same thing. So in the past, they've got fighters, trained them up, and we've had fighters from Dunedin, and they've competed against each other. So last week they did their show up there. It was their fighters fighting their fighters, and And this is what we're going to be doing down here. So if the show down here is anything like the one that they had up in Alexandria the other weekend, it's going to be absolutely barn burner stuff. Like it was just, it was empty the tank stuff. It was really good. There was times where they were standing there looking at each other like, is this really only 3 minutes? God, it seems like it's 30 minutes. Like it was just, this is the thing that we love about amateur fights. They have that emotional roller coaster they have to go through, the big adrenaline dump, thinking what they should be doing, being told what they should be doing, and perhaps not doing what they should be doing. So, that's the part that we're looking for. But watching the development of the team of fighters down here, now that they know they're all matched up and who they're going to be fighting, a lot of the people are fighting the people I've been training with all this time, are looking very, very good. There's some fights on there that I'm very, very interested in watching and calling on that Saturday night. So just to see how they're going to go.
And is that specifically run out of Hammerhead, or is that like a bigger region thing? So it is just a Hammerhead thing?
Well, it's something that was started 6 years ago. Tick it off your bucket list. So we have done it with Carl Weber's gym in Christchurch. We did it like an Otago Canterbury thing one year, and this is all with the backdrop of suicide awareness that we've been part of promoting. Not promoting, sorry, but it's always been part of our promotions to support these people, these causes, because it's such a big thing. And we've been doing this for quite a while now. And so we did Otago Canterbury, and then with the club up in Central, been doing that for a couple of years now, which is great. So, it's just a very good vehicle for people to get this out of the way, something that they need to do, like different age groups and everything. You would totally understand this.
And have you had any of those guys go from ticking it off their bucket list to actually then, I guess, getting on the amateur circuit or even pro circuit? Like, have any of them actually developed on further?
Yeah. There's actually one of them who was the main card of the last year's bucket list is now on the XFC card.
Next weekend?
Yes, he is. Yeah. So they're stepping up, So this is a great opportunity, that they get if they show promise and they hang around, which is great. The number of people that hang around after they've done this and keep training is great. It's really good for the club, and it's great for the community because if the word gets out, people go and watch them. Oh, why the hell are you doing this sort of thing? And then they see it's not what they think it is, and they understand the amount of work and sacrifice these people have put in, the commitment, and they understand there's a lot of honour involved in it, and they see that it's a very respectful and well-governed sport. It's how we do it to a very high level. So, they're learning is so much more than just fighting, which is the best part about martial arts. We're really looking forward to this.
I'll tell you also what I like about, let's say, bucket list, or in our case, Winter Warrior.
Yes. Yeah.
At bare minimum, I think it educates those people, right? And what I mean by that is, like, when you go to an event and they'll be wrestling up against the fence or whatever, and people start booing and things like that. Yeah. And I think at bare minimum, the people that go through these programs, they end up coming out and they understand what's going on. And so all of a sudden, where you might have been one of those people on the sidelines booing in those moments, all of a sudden, you're like probably there with a couple of other friends that are starting to boo, and you'll be like, no, this is what they're doing, and this is what they're doing. And I think just even from an educational side of things, that's what I really like. So whether people obviously continue on, whether people continue to train, or whether it is a bucket list thing, but it just, as I say, educates them as the general fan as well. I think it's a great, and also it just, for me, it was the discipline, right? Like, it was just even like going through that, from dieting to getting up every morning to just having that routine. And it was funny because when I did my series, I was 36, and I can honestly say, coming out of it, I mean, a bit different now again, but coming out of it, I was honestly in the best shape of my life. And I'm talking about, like, comparing myself to an 18-year-old. And even as 18, I used to play a lot of basketball. I used to play a lot of sports, but I don't think I was ever in the condition I was in when I was 36 after 6 months of training MMA. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's great. And your mental state would be fantastic too, I bet.
The mental state is, mate, like a lot of people go in there with a lot of mental state, right? Like, I mean, like, look, we've had a lot of people that go in there with, whether they have severe depression or even bipolar or, I mean, a lot of people go with weight issues and stuff, but like a lot of people go, I mean, we had a guy, I don't know if it was last season or the season before, like because he won, or did he win his fight or lose his fight? I don't know, but he spoke afterwards and he was talking about that, like literally he was suicidal and stuff, like, so it definitely plays with you.
For sure. It's massive. It can be such a benefit in so many aspects, and it's just problem solving. You apply all these rules, things that you learn, these lessons that you learn to life. It's it's just such a positive thing.
So talking about obviously dealing with mental issues or whatever, what I'm really interested about as well is I've been told that you've done a TED Talk, right?
Yes.
And
I
want to know, like, was it MMA related? What's the deal with that? Like, talk us, because usually, like with the TED Talk, and to be honest with you, is it anywhere where we can actually look it up and
no,
have
you
a look
can't.
at it?
Look, I'll tell you the great part about this, Dennis. I still don't know why I got asked to do this, but I think I was set up. But it was so interesting to do. And of course it was about MMA, and I kept saying to them, why the hell do you want me to do this? I'm so used to talking about MMA to people that are interested in this, and you want me to talk to people that know nothing about it. It took a lot of time to get the story that it was acceptable. I think that would be the word, acceptable. To tell, basically, because there was sometimes I was telling them things to give them background, and they just would like, and the guy kept coming up to me and he goes, "You can't say that." I'm like, "Well, I can, because it's true." And he goes, "No, you just can't say that. People just won't understand." I said, "But this is my truth, mate. I understand this, And I said to him, and I said this simple thing to him. I said, "Look, you might not be interested in this, in like the fighting side of it and all that sort of thing." I said, "But you could go to any school, you could say to anybody, tell me, go to any kid's school, go to a kindergarten and say to them, who's the strongest and who's the fastest in your class?" They'll go, "That kid there and that kid there." Kids know this stuff. It's important, And it was also going to be part of my talk was, I said, if I stood there and I said names like, Dempsey or Lewis or Marciano or, obviously Tyson or Frazier or Ali or Foreman, somewhere in this crowd, or the demographic of the crowd of whatever age group from 20 to 80, someone will understand what I know that name. And it's like, well, why do you know that name? Why is it important that you know this name, This is how important fighting is to us, We still want to know who's the strongest in the village. It's as simple as that. So, yes, I did do a TED Talk, and I did get it right. Finally, that it was acceptable, and it was a very interesting experience to do, because I had some really funny bits in it, but the people that were sitting there in front of me just did not know when to laugh. They just didn't get it. But the people that I took there to the show, they were laughing their heads off down the back, but the other people just looked at me. I was getting no feedback, nothing. It was total stunned mullet views from them, but it was I was asking them a lot of questions, basically. So it was quite interesting. And of course, like you say, the interesting part was, where can we see this? And it was it was the only one on the night where the teleprompter cut out and the screen behind didn't work and all this thing, and they couldn't record it. But I was with people that were doctors and lecturers, published authors, and their stuff was their subjects were really interesting, and it was and why I was in there I still don't know, but I still keep in touch with people from that night, and I've just got in touch with one not long ago, and I said, you better come to this fight night, because we used to talk about MMA all the time, but he totally got what I was talking about, and it was just like we were talking about the good things that come out of martial arts, as apart from the physical experience, is the mental experience of it, and I suppose that's what I was doing with the talk. But I did have, the best part for me is I did have people come up to me later on and say, my kids watch this stuff all the time and I didn't like it, but I've heard what you said tonight, and you've changed my mind. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's all I wanted to do, because I did talk about the emotional side of the sport, that which to me is a massive part of it. The roller coaster that they go through, which you would have done. Being tired or being organised or being injured or got to go, or why am I doing this? And it's just it was great. It was great.
I mean, the hardest thing for me when we're talking about the roller coaster wasn't the injuries and stuff. I think I got through it pretty good in that case. Mine was once you got to the sparring, and it was just like,
oh yeah. No, you told me this. Yes,
you just don't get it. Like it's like one day you walk in there and you're landing your shots, right? And you literally, it doesn't matter. I was against light heavyweights. I was whatever. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. And I was landing everything. You kind of leave that gym that day, and you're like, I'm gonna have fun come finale. Like you literally have that sort of reeking confidence. And then you go in the very next day. So we're talking about 24 hours later, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I'm not landing anything, right?
No, yeah.
Everyone's getting their gloves on my face, and you leave there and you want to cry, right? And I think that was the roller coaster for me, was like, how in 24 hours can you keep bouncing up and down, where one day you're the king of the gym and then the next day you're actually the peasant, right? Like in a sense, right? Like you're literally and I think it was the most humbling experience there, because as I say, when you first left the gym thinking you were the king, right? You had a bit of a chip on your shoulder. Like it just happens, because you're like, like I was owning people, right? Like literally, like without wanting to swear, but you'd be like, you were my bit, like. But then all of a sudden, the next day you walk in, and then it just didn't work out too well. And I think even in that, as I said, like, I mean, I never went in because I had like depression or anything, so that wasn't for me. For me, it was just more or less a bucket list. It was a challenge. It was whatever you want to do it. I mean, on the finale, they put the video up. I spoke about that. I always told people to chase their own dreams, and I kind of went, well, that's a dream of mine. Like, obviously I was too old to chase it, as in to chase it. But I thought, why not give it a crack? But like, so the hardest thing for me, I wasn't overweight. I wasn't so I went in it with a totally different kind of mindset. But it was humbling.
But that part that you said with that, the easy way to sum that up is rooster one day, feather duster the next.
I've never heard that one before, ever.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. You're a rooster one day and you're a feather duster the next, mate. So you're king shit one day and the next day you're brown bread, mate. So that's great. That's great. That's exactly what it is. You get put on your ass. It's great.
And so, do you when you run your series, do you run it independently to say your normal gym activities, or do you sometimes bring some of these actual fighters in to rough them up a little bit and give them a little bit of
What Matt does at the gym was they have their own classes. They can train. They have their own specific classes every night of the week, Monday to Friday, and they can as it gets close to the time, they do sparring on a Saturday, but they also come in the mornings and do their conditioning. So they have their own classes. So as they progress, and if they show promise and that, they get offered to be involved in the earlier sparring or something like that. So they can jump in other classes if they want, but they have their own dedicated classes. So that's how Matt runs that at the gym. So the bucket list is its own identity. But and obviously they become part of the club, and they make friends with the other fighters and things like that. So they're watching. They can turn up early and watch and pick up tips, or they can do different classes. So it's really up to them how much they want to get involved.
Yeah, I guess I just talk from, obviously, once again, the Winter Warrior experience, for a long time, and once again, like, they're not there to beat you up or whatever, but we had, Sharpie make a guest appearance. You had your Mark Hunts, you had your Jens Pulvers, and, and it does, I guess, for someone, it gives them that little bit of extra, I guess, like, oh yeah, like, and it's another story that you can kind of go, well, I shared the mats with this guy, let alone, like, obviously.
Oh, no, well, they get to be part of the club, so they're watching the training, which happens every day. So, like I say, they can go earlier and watch or get involved. They might get asked to do some sparring with someone else. It depends on their skill levels and things like that. So, yeah, and they get the opportunity, just. I'll go and talk to them, or the opportunity to ask me questions as an official. Not that I'm going to be reffing on the show, but I have done in the past, and I can run them through it. So they can ask those questions and get the correct answers. Adhere to the rules. These are the rules. Obviously, they know those, but then they have to act within those rules, and then they can go through scenarios and ask all kinds of questions. Can we do this and can we do that? Or no, you can't. Yes, you can. Or you can in this situation, but not like this. So. Yeah, so they get very, very good training, and they get drilled very, very well, and they understand the rules, and so then it's down to the day that they get to perform, or the night they get to perform, in front of their friends.
Nice.
It's just fantastic.
Nice.
It's great. It's really, really good. It's a really good vehicle. It's a great show. We always look forward to it. We love amateur fights, because you watch them. Like you say, you watch them and you're thinking, wow, and I might see them later in the week and you just go, whoo. But then you got to see the ones that rise. But then again, it's the ones, you get the same thing of, they could be killers in the gym, but they fade under the lights, So, well, you get some that just aren't doing, you don't think they're doing very well, but just come and absolutely perform, just absolute standouts, and they will get the opportunity to be offered membership at the gym, that'll be paid for.
Oh, so you guys have like a scholarship that comes from it then?
If there's people that show promise and we know that they want to compete more or they want to go on, they will get the opportunity they'll get that offer to them. They get offered to fight on other shows, or if they show that potential and it's like, do you want to do more? Yeah, rightio, you can come back to the gym, you don't have to pay for a while,
Nice.
Come and fight for the club.
Nice.
It's great. Yeah, it's very good.
So I always have to ask, we will start to kind of wind it all in, but yes. I do always like to ask people like yourself that have just been in the game for, the better part of, I guess, what is it now, 2.5 decades for you, right? Not trying to show your age or anything, but what's like just a couple of like pinch yourself moments where, you've just literally you've literally whether it was, standing in Dubai and just going, I can't believe that potentially watching people fight has got me here. I don't know.
Look, it's this. It's being involved in the sport, Dennis, and being able to do the things that you watch on TV. It's quite interesting to be an official like a judge, as in I can't have any interaction with them, so which I wouldn't do anyway. So, but you can be very, very close to these people, as in you can be like, they can be this far away from you with their head pushed up against the cage, sort of thing. And it's it's just seeing the name fighters and that, but then watching potential stars. Where you just sit there and you just go, wow, I'm going to watch this guy. This guy looks wow. And I remember doing that with a certain fighter who's now now a title holder from Russia. I think I did his first fight in Singapore, and it was just like, wow, I'm going to watch this guy's progression. It was just real standout stuff. I've seen some moments in the cage, in the octagon, where you just think, it's just incredible, just the name fighters, or even not the name fighters, and quite spectacular fights. That's the part that I really enjoy in the sport now. Is that I really want to see that stuff that makes you go, wow. And I've been in those situations, and there's times that I just have to sit there. I can't. As much as you want to be standing up, you just, no, I can't do that, and I wouldn't. But you just think, wow, it's, and you just look around at the crowd, how they're reacting to the sport. It's just fantastic. But there's situations. Oh, mate, the number of times, you get the email on the phone, you'll be like, oh, that's a highlight, and then I don't know. I suppose when you hear Bruce Buffer say your name, things like that. That's a bit of a pinch yourself moment. Sometimes you don't want that, because as a judge, when he says your name after a fight, and if it's not the main card fight, you think, oh God, I'm involved in a bloody split decision, which is not a good feeling. And just things like that. It's just, but I tell you what, the best part's being with people that are like-minded and really love the sport. And you really look forward to seeing them. You really do, You get to spend 24 hours with people from all around the world, It's great. It's a real highlight. It really is. I enjoy that part. But I just love watching good fights, mate. I really do. Well, my thing has always been for the fighter, all glory goes to them, It really does. The critic and the man in the stand, or the critic, is not important, It's about what happens in the middle of the cage, and to be a referee and be in the middle of something like that is unparalleled for me. It really is. When you can stand there and you say to people, "Are you ready?" and you look at the other one, "Are you ready?" and you say, "Fight," and they do. It's just.
I honestly thought you were
amazing.
I thought you were about to say, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And then in your mind, you're like, "Am I ready?" Like,
oh no, no,
I'm kind of standing in the middle of it all.
No, I've been through that. I've got all that sort of stuff sorted for myself. I've done those amateur world titles, and I've done some, and I've seen fighters that I've refereed in the amateurs who are now actually in the UFC, which is really interesting. To watch them progress. It's great. Become real pros. It's great. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
that's, you can't do any better than in the middle of a fight and being not the one that's getting punched.
That's true. Well, you got front row seats, right? So it's the best seat in the house.
Absolutely.
But we will wrap it up.
Yep.
I just want to say though that obviously just because you stitched up Sharpie on
yes.
the podcast when so he actually told me the real reason that he wears tight shirts, right?
Yeah, I know. I know the reason.
Oh, okay.
He works out so much. He puts a lot of effort into it. He looks good.
No. So the reason he told me is because he's still waiting, right? He's still waiting, and he wants to know when you're going to buy him a cup of coffee.
That's right.
Right?
Right, mate.
He said that's why he's wearing it. He said, "Do you know, I've been trying to get a cup of coffee out of this guy for so long."
Yeah,
he's like, "What do I do?"
Yeah, he likes calling the shots as in if this happens and this happens, you're going to do this, or you're going to buy this, or we'll put this on this fight, or something like that. And I'm like, nah, mate, no way, mate, But look, people like that in the game, they're the absolute highlights, and they're the ones you want to get to. But he does drink a lot of coffee, and he doesn't mind paying, which is okay. That's what I reckon. But he does like wearing tight shirts, and the reason is he works out a lot.
He does work out a lot.
Oh, yeah, mate.
But, so, look, we'll call it quits. Hopefully I can get you on another time, and maybe we can get some of these technical issues sorted out, and we can actually take a tour of the man cave that I mentioned before, because, as I say, it's more of a museum than anything else right now. Like, I mean, I've had the pleasure to obviously see a bit of it. But look, for people, I guess, that want to get into contact with you, whether it's to, go to one of these XFC shows, whether it is to, potentially tick off something on their bucket list, train for Hammerhead, or what's the kind of best way for people to hit you up or hit the gym up?
Look, the best way is just Team Hammerhead on social media on Facebook. We post a lot of stuff on that. We're in Mosgiel, got a fantastic facility there, and it's a very welcoming, very friendly atmosphere. But they'll really help you become the best you can be. They really will, you know. You can try. We can do all kinds of classes there. So social media on Facebook. Go to Team Hammerhead. We post a lot of stuff, you know. So you can do that. And if they're in a different part of the country, like up in Central, and that, we've got a sister club up there too. So and if anyone's looking, which is Hammerhead Central. So the ones that just did the show. So. And we're connected, you know. The fight community, as you know, Dennis, is bloody small, mate. So if you need help or you're moving to a different city, you want to know where to train, they'll always tell you the best place to go, that you get the best service. So, yeah, but Team Hammerhead, and based in Mosgiel and Dunedin, hit us up on social media. Come and have a look.
Well, there you have it. Like, it's been an absolute pleasure to have Howie on board. You know, he's obviously got a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and I really wish we documented, as I said at the start of this show, we documented the extreme lengths we went to actually get this podcast up and running. Like, we were meant to actually record this probably close to 4 hours ago, I would say, and it literally has been a mission. Next time I'll have to do a little behind the scenes documentary just to show people. But as I said, I do really appreciate the time. Hopefully the borders open up soon. I know we're opening the borders to New Zealand before New Zealand open it to us. But I mean, I would love to one day travel back, not just to Christchurch, but back to Dunedin. But yeah, we're going to call it an end there. And until the next one, that is it.